2.5 years ago, I lost a child and almost lost my own life in the process. I'm Liz, and is it possible that the success you are chasing is not the finish line? We found out we were pregnant with our 5th little baby, super excited, and the kids were so overjoyed over the fact that they were going to be welcoming another sibling into our crazy crew. And everything was going just as it always had with my previous pregnancies. Until one day, about halfway through the pregnancy, I went in for a routine Doppler check where they check the heartbeat and you get to see baby bouncing around, and there was no heartbeat. And it was the most gutting experience of my life. And I didn't know that it would soon be followed by one of the most traumatic, scary experiences of my life soon after. So I go home and waiting for labor to start, and I ultimately go into labor quite quickly, and we deliver our son a stillbirth at home. But immediately after I knew something was wrong, I was bleeding profusely and soon starting to lose consciousness right there on the bathroom floor. And I remember my husband scooping me up, and he thought ahead enough to throw me in a black hoodie of his and black sweatpants to kind of cover all the blood that was everywhere so he could sneak me by our kids who were out having breakfast that morning. And my friend was in town, so she stayed with them, and he rushed me to the hospital where I was losing consciousness in the car. And we get to the hospital, and I ultimately ended up losing over 50% of my blood volume that day, which is typically catastrophic. A lot of miracles kind of covered me in those moments, and because of a life-saving surgery and a massive blood transfusion, I'm still here. But I remember coming to the next day in the hospital and having this deep sense of clarity like I'd never had before, covered in grief and pain and all the things that come with what we had just walked through. But that sense of clarity was this. It was, I will never spend another moment of my life doing anything that is not what God's calling me to. And it would be nice to tell you, you have that experience, you have that wake-up call, and then everything from that moment forward is just so clear and so perfect and so focused. That has not been the case. This happened about 2.5 years ago, and it has been the most challenging, trying 2.5 years of my life because I gained that clarity. But the fruit that's come on the other side of it has been beyond anything I could have hoped for. So I want to tell you a little bit about it, because you don't need a shake-up or a wake-up like I had, and in fact, I 0 out of 10 recommend it, going the way that I did, to understand that you have purpose in this life, and you have something you're being called into right now in this moment that you are putting on the back burner, or you're ignoring because you have other things that you're trying to get ahead, or you're waiting for all the stars to align, or for things to be perfect before you take that next step, or before you pursue the thing that God's placed on your soul, or you just want to get your business to this level before you take this other path, or whatever it might be, or whatever story you might be telling yourself. And I'm here to tell you, don't waste that time. So when I had that realization, it wasn't like I woke up and I was like, everything was perfect and the business was all aligned with this new calling and direction in my life. It meant that I had to go through a season of serious pruning, right? So my husband and I, over that next month, I was basically in bed without the strength to get up and walk myself to the bathroom. So I spent a lot of time praying and crying and healing and grieving in the confines of our own little bedroom. And my husband would come in, he'd sit next to me, and through tears, I would explain to him, like, I know that I almost lost my chance. Because what hit me the hardest, aside from losing our son, was that if it had all ended in that moment, which I was awfully close to, too close for comfort, I would have missed my chance. Because everything I had been building and pursuing and chasing was not what I was called to pursue in my life. It was this hope of building a foundation that would, if I just do these things, right? If I just get the business to this level, then I'll be somebody, or then I will have done something of significance, or then I'll have the space or the time or the freedom to do these other things. And then I can show up well as a mom. But the reality was that I was staring down my final moments. And if those were my final moments, I wouldn't get that do-over. I wouldn't get that chance to instill in my children what matters today, right? Like if I were gone, I'd be gone. I wouldn't get the chance to put the work out into the world that I knew God was calling me to, but maybe it wasn't going to be as profitable as this other work over here that I'd been doing because it pays, right? I knew that there was something greater I was being led into, but I was afraid to go all in on it. And I kept kicking that can down the road. And in those months that followed, I had to make some massive changes in my life in order to catch up with the version of myself I knew I was called to become. The version of myself that would be aligned with all those things that God was calling me to, that if, God forbid, I experienced that final moment of my life, I would have known this was it. This was really how I was meant to do it. So for me, that meant one key thing was reassessing, what do I say are my values? What do I say I hold dear, right? Family or my health or doing life in the village, right? Like with my family and extended family and around to help and serve my parents and take care of them as they age or be there for my siblings or cousins or aunts and uncles or whoever it might be, and raising my kids with all this family surrounding them. But we were living in our dream home, right? With the beautiful views, secluded from family. So we had to really stare down, like, what do we say we hold dear versus how are we actually living? So much so that we put that dream home on the market and we moved cross country to be close to family. Right? We had to shake up our lives after that experience, because there are plenty of times, I'm sure you've had it or you've witnessed it in someone else, where they go through this horribly difficult thing, right? This thing that tests them. And for a moment, they're convicted to live differently. But then, old habits die hard, right? They fall back into temptations or comforts or old rhythms, and they lose that perspective and that opportunity that comes only through pain and challenge. And I wasn't willing to do that. So I had to stare down, what am I going to do differently? Another thing was I had this awakening of like, oh my gosh, if it all ended tomorrow, this business that I had poured so much of myself into, what was it all really for? A paycheck? To make money? Because I knew there were other ways that I was called to serve, and it wasn't really in the ways that I was serving. I was helping people grow and scale their businesses, which can lead to freedom and opportunity and things that are really beneficial for people. But I knew in my heart of hearts, my real gifting was in cultivating the leader within them and pulling out their calling and helping them live into that and show up for their family well and create that living legacy in this moment right now. But I wasn't doing that. So the 7+ figure contract with one of my dream clients that I could have only imagined working with, it had to go because it was no longer on the path to where I was being called, which, by the way, is massively disruptive to your life when you are eliminating big profit streams, right? We closed the doors to one of our businesses that was generating for us in a really huge way because I knew it was no longer congruent with where I was called to go, with my big next in my life. So when you think about your own life, when you think about where you're being guided, are you balking at it? Are you hesitating? Are you waiting for a perfect scenario? Are you waiting for a better time? Are you thinking that if you check this box or do X, Y, Z, then you'll have the capacity to do this thing that's really on your heart to pursue or to experience or to become? Because I'm telling you, you don't want to wait for the catastrophic moment. You don't want to have this massive shakeup in order to realize, oh my gosh, I don't necessarily have time, or I don't know how much time I have. The time is now. But let's say you didn't have this crazy moment in your life like I did, and you're not exactly sure what it is that you're meant to do. And I'm not necessarily saying, burn the ships or shut down the business. For me, it wasn't just shutting everything down. It was pruning away what was no longer meant for me or that I was meant for, and getting crystal clear on what it was I was being called into in all areas of my life. So if you feel like you lack that clarity, I have something that I created that I used for myself in that season when I was just weak and in bed and trying to figure this out. I needed to figure out what are the questions I have to ask myself to kind of peel back the layers of the onion and get crystal clear on what's meant for me. So I've put those into journaling prompts for you to utilize to really gain that perspective without having to walk through the refiner's fire. Okay. So you can check it out in the description below. This is a tool I use for myself, but I've also used it for my clients over the last few years to help them step into their big next and their calling. Sometimes the way to identify if, man, am I walking through a season like she's talking about? Am I experiencing some of that flux of, is this really it? Or is this the finish line? Or is this what I'm meant to be doing? I could feel that it wasn't right at the time because there was not just a clear voice that I was hearing or anything. It was this unsettled feeling, like this feeling like I knew there was something more, but I didn't know what it was yet. Enough so that a podcast that I had run for 8 years without ever missing a Monday, I knew that I couldn't keep speaking on the specific things I was speaking on when I knew there was something else I was supposed to be talking about, even though I didn't know what that was yet. So I had to pause that for a minute, right? Or there were things I had to create the space to be able to see and identify what was right for me through a lot of prayer, through a lot of journaling, like utilizing those prompts, and also seeking wise counsel, bringing the people into my life to help me see those blind spots and where I was kind of falling short of what that calling really was. So utilize those prompts because they're a very powerful tool. But also know you got to bring the people into your life. They're going to hold up the mirror and hold you accountable to who you're really meant to be. Not where you can make the most money necessarily or what comes the easiest, but cultivate in you the version of yourself that when you face the end of your life, hopefully many, many decades from now, you can reflect back and see that path that you walked, that it was truly the direction that you were called to go. As always, thanks for listening and come back for more. Got some topics like this coming up soon.